Welcome aboard to Game Day Scoreboard. Joe Musso pleased to be alongside CBS NFL analyst Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook here. How we feeling, Emory?
Feeling fantastic on this Sunday afternoon.
We're going to put a bow here on the evening window with games starting to come in final. We got one already, the Chargers. TCOB against Tennessee. That's taking care of business, or was that like old school TCBY?
I was going with the ice cream.
Well, and it was all sorts of flavors of offense in this one to go with a Chargers defense that's shown up throughout this entire season. How's 13.1 points per game allowed by the Charger defense, and now an offense humming right along behind their quarterback and Justin Herbert, who doesn't blow the doors off of this one, but efficient when asked to pass. This looked much more like the game script from weeks 1 through 6 of this season. We know Herbert's passing numbers have ballooned in these last 2 weeks, but 164 on 14 of 18. Could have had another dropped in the end zone. Still plenty, 27-17, and it wasn't all that close. Douzable joining the conversation as well. Gentlemen, always a pleasure to be with you. Let's dive into what we saw here, or at least some of it, because this Chargers team, we're sitting there wondering what they are, what the fullest form might look like, and you could parse those, you could try and figure that out. It's a team that wins football games, and they won one handedly. What stood out about the effort in this game to you, Emory?
They play great complementary football, Joe, and I think that's the biggest takeaway for the Chargers. You talk about a team that was 3 out of 5 inside the red zone. You saw efficient play in the passing game from Justin Herbert, and what I like most about what Herbert has done this season, he's been more decisive and judicious when he's going to take off and run and get those cheap yards. This game, he showed off the skills in terms of his running ability, which kind of opened things up in the passing game, and getting back Gus Edwards to go along with J.K. Dobbins. They're running the football, they're establishing an identity, and now on defense, we're seeing all of those talented players that we talked about every draft class make their plays and make their way out there on the field.
Deuce, you've been in locker rooms and had different leadership. This has all the signs of culture, and the culture was obvious coming in, but the speed in which Coach Harbaugh's culture has been implemented is shocking. It's all the hallmarks, the turnover stuff, the points per game defensively, the efficiency on offense. What have you made of that aspect of this turnaround for L.A.?
Well, Moose, if you look at Jim Harbaugh's history, it shouldn't be a surprise. He's done this at every level, whether it was at San Diego, right? Whether it was at in college at Stanford, whether it was in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers. One thing Jim Harbaugh does is turn programs over quickly. And you talked about it, Moose. It's about the culture, right? They're going to be a physical, gritty team that establishes the run. But to Emory's point, I love what I've seen from this Chargers defense. This is one of the top defenses in all the nation. Shout out to defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, because he's gotten players that have once been cast-off starters, right? Like Molden, the safety, was playing at a Pro Bowl level. People forget he was a starter at Tennessee. They kind of cast him on the heat pile. He goes to the Chargers. He's playing at a Pro Bowl level. Look at guys like Bud Dupree. He's coming off the edge, constantly getting sacks. A guy that me and Emory really like, Tuopulu on the outside, he had 2 sacks this game as well. So I love what Jesse Minter has done with the talent that's allotted to him on his team. Not big-name stars, but guys are playing at a high level.
And to speak to your point about the culture, man, we've all played with coaches that believe in us and they got to bring out the best in us, right? Look at how he's turned around Quentin Johnston, you know, in terms of how he's playing with confidence and catching the football, catching the, you know, these touchdowns. And Herbert, he's playing with confidence. You see him run a little bit more, lower his shoulder, show his toughness, all because they know when they look to the sideline, yes, we may make fun of it because it is funny, but it's quirky in Jim Harbaugh. But those are the type of coaches that usually brings out the best in you as a player.
And you could save your surprise. Now 6-3, best start, as you see there, since 2018, already surpassing the win total from a year ago. It is a full-fledged turnaround, and it's only one cycle, only one offseason that they've been able to put their fingerprints on this thing. From a personnel standpoint, is this still an LA team that might lack in certain spots in your eyes?
No, and from my perspective, it's all about the depth, because I go back, 4 or 5 draft classes where I'm constantly saying, man, I love what the Chargers did in the draft. I love what they were able to get. Check out this guy, that guy, this guy. And now we're starting to see those pieces kind of fit together. And Leger talked about it. You talk about that defense. That's where they probably aced the draft the most. In the front 7 and also in the secondary.
Defensively, certainly. I guess I'm looking at it through my wide receiver lens, as I often do here, Deuce.
Yeah.
Do you see the talent group on offense? Let me refine that question, because there were a couple dropped passes. Justin Herbert, we know what he's capable of, and I'm not sure that this is an offense that feels comfortable letting him do all those things just yet, not because of his ability, but because of those around him.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you look at it, that's just how Jim Harbaugh builds his team, right? They want to run the ball effectively. J.K. Dobbins, people question him coming off that Achilles injury. Would he still have that explosive ability? Well, he showed that. They finally get Gus Edwards back. He gave them some juice in the run game as well. And then Haskins had a tough physical run at the goal line. So I hear what you're saying, Moose. When you look at the receivers, it's not a team that really fears you. To Emory's point, Quentin Johnson has really come on strong the last few weeks. He's built his confidence up. And the one thing I love about Justin Herbert is even when Johnson was struggling in the beginning of the year, he never kind of like berated him. He never had his head down after a drop pass. He kept encouraging him, kept going to him with the football, and now it's paying dividends for them on offense. So this is going to be a team that runs the ball. They're going to be tied in by committee. We saw Will Dissly really come into his own the last few games. Now, you talked about that drop touchdown pass, which was a thing of beauty from Justin Herbert and should have been caught for a touchdown pass. But I feel like they have enough because of what Emory said. The depth, right? They don't have the names on the back of the jersey, but everybody that plays upper what their level really is, because Jesse Minter's done a really good job, and so has Jim Harbaugh.
And as you guys said, it's a defense that is presenting a pretty simple math equation. Give us 2 touchdowns, 2 kicks, and you win a football game. Again, 13.1 points per game by that stout Chargers defense. Let's get on the other side of this one. It's a Titan team that the writing is already on the wall now, 2-7 on the season, but you do get your starting quarterback back, and I guess the remainder of this season, you try and figure out if that is your starting quarterback. What did this sample size offer to you about Will Levis?
I feel like the entire passing game is inconsistent, and that, you know, is part of Will Levis. That's mainly the coaching staff and the passing game as a whole in terms of how they are crafting the passing game, because we saw Will Levis have success early. We've seen this before from Will Levis, have success early in the game, which probably tells you that whatever the script is coming into the ball game is perfectly game planned and designed. It's when teams adjust on the other side. Outside of that scripted 15 plays or so, what can you do to counter? And if you're not setting your quarterback up for success, because even though it was garbage time, last minute, we saw him march down the field with a beautiful throw once again to Calvin Ridley. So I question the play calling, the design, the adjustments, and that's kind of affecting the quarterback play consistency-wise of Will Levis.
I will say this, relative to past performances, protected the football in this one, Deuce.
Yeah.
North of 200 total yards in this one, 2 touchdowns for Levis. What was your impression?
Yeah, I love how he came out. He was efficient with the football. I think that was the most important thing, Moose. Not turning over the football. That's been his Achilles heel since he became the starter for the Tennessee Titans. So I love that he's grown in that area. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. What I will say is, Moose, he needs to learn how to slide. He can't keep continuing to take these massive hits in the open field once he decides to evade pressure in the pocket and get on the outside. And then he got sacked 7 times today. A couple of those were on the offensive line, but there were times I felt like he didn't want to turn the football over, and he held it just a tick too long. So I do love the growth of him not forcing things down the field. Emory talked about that beautiful pass down the field to Calvin Ridley for the touchdown. So I saw some growth from Will Levis. But to your point, Moose, for the rest of the season, it'll be determining, is Will Levis truly our quarterback of the future?
What's fascinating also is the fact that the run game has been there for Tennessee.
Yeah.
They got 2 explosive backs. I feel like they should lean more into that. And I know you can't take much from preseason, but when we go back and look at the preseason, this was the first time we saw this coaching staff out there coaching these guys. It was a lot of outside zone, heavy play action, Will Levis deep shot down the field, and it looked pretty, it looked beautiful, it looked efficient, it looked like a modern-day offense. If they can find a way to lean with the run game first and play action pass, minimize his opportunities to put the ball in the air so that way he won't take some of those sacks, Leger, that's what my takeaway is from what we saw today from how they ran the ball.
What is it, wins and lessons, no losses? Well, the NFL, there certainly are losses, and we keep track. The Tennessee Titans put another one in that column, although maybe some learning experience here for Will Levis. Taking a look at what the Chargers have done the last 9 at home against the Titans. Wear whatever uniforms, played in any stadium.
Gus Edwards wearing number 4 changed a lot.
There you go. There you go. We missed nothing. 9-0, their last 9 tries at home against the Titans. That remains true. And it is now an LA team that's playing with some belief behind their head coach.